All right, so just to give everyone a heads up, our dashboard asks a whole bunch of different questions, and the second part of the dashboard is dedicated to team leaders. Right about now is probably a good time to be asking team leaders, if you haven't contacted them regularly, to start thinking about getting in touch with their teams. Now, today, myself and Rob Chittenden had an interesting conversation, and Rob was mentioning the fact that this week, I think, Rob, you're going on site?
Yeah, we're going to do an on-site visit, yes.
So Rob's going on site to do an on-site visit this week, and I hope you don't mind me sharing, but there's this element of anxiety, all right, about going into a workplace. Would I be correct in saying?
Yeah, we have to have a look at our COVID-19 rules and just make sure that we do our social distancing correctly. So there's a little bit more to manage than we normally would think about. You know, normally just work, work, work. And now there's a bit of personal hygiene that we need to be aware of.
Yeah, and these... Thanks, Rob. And these questions are likely to be questions and anxieties that your teams are going to feel. So we'd suggest that it would be a good idea to contact your teams and start talking to them regularly, all right, before they actually get the green light to come on site. And that way you can start preparing yourself, just in case you come across a person that is really struggling with the idea of going back to site. Now, we do this for simple reasons, and I'll just show you the little thing that's up in front of you. The two things that we're concerned about for the family is the well-being of the family. So if their family is having some form of medical problem in the household, all right, that's going to be something that's going to impact the business. Not only that, we want to think, is there a way that we can actually support that family? We don't know this unless we keep contacting and showing that we're interested in the health and well-being of the family. So the second part of that is the return to work status, all right? We need to start planning for the potential for people that would not be available to go onto site. And what does that look like? And so if you have a look, we do score it from 1 through to 5. What happens if you had 10, say 4 team leaders contacting all their teams, and 3 of them came back and said, we've got people that are at a level 5. What do you need to do in that space? So we're not going to say we have the answers for you. We could probably assist. However, what we're trying to say is it's important to know before the sites open up how to answer that question and how to make those people feel comfortable. And this is just a quick example of the stuff that you can find on the dashboard. If you need more help and information about getting ready to go back onto site, all right, let's not make assumptions. There's a tool there that's available for you to use. And I'm hoping that this, as just a little snippet, will give you a little bit of a heads up of some important questions you might like to be asking with your teams. So that's me, gentlemen. Anthony, I'll hand back.
It's very similar to the level 4 and level 3 lockdown language that we're all hearing around the world in different countries, and it applies at home too.
Yeah, look, it's unusual times, you know, and I think sometimes if you try and kind of like step too far back from asking hard questions, potentially you run the risk of running into problems.
Yeah, that's right. And we do need to keep it practical, especially in the workplace. Rob, what tips do you have about keeping it practical?
Yeah, well, making the most of this time is something we've all had 4 days, sort of a long weekend, enjoying family and isolating ourselves. So I thought it'd be good just to recap on some of the things that we spoke about from a lean perspective last week. And that is being very practical about what we can do. And lean is always about improvement, and that's why we work in this space so much, is that we're very genuinely concerned about what improvements have we been made day to day, week to week, month to month. So I'd still like to get people focusing on the basics. Go look around for your 5S is definitely up there, particularly around the office, an area you might not have already done, but now there's less people in there, it might be easier to do. Factory floor goes without saying that it's an area that always needs our attention, but you also might have a chance to do at home. I did my tool shed on the weekend, so we've all got a little bit of extra time to finally get those screwdrivers all nicely in a row and Phillips separated from flat. So I'm very happy with my 5S efforts over the weekend, just spending that time. And you already feel better for the benefits of that. It's now easier to use. So always consider 5S as a practical tool to go back to. Also, last week we spoke about making sure your inventory controls where you need it to be. This is a testing time for our supply chain, so really focus on, are there any risks or exposures in your supply chain coming up as we go through these events. And the other thing I talked about last week was standard work. So now that we're all working remotely, and this is a great example of us at TXM working remotely, is setting up our standard work. What does our standard day look like? Let's try and get some sort of routines developed so that bad habits don't creep in, that we can structure our work and make progress on the challenges that face us. So there's plenty of tools there to go look at. Be engaged, be positive. This is a time to look at what this is teaching us. Can we make a worse time and make it into a better time? So keep working on your lean improvements just to keep active as well. So that's what I've got today, Anthony. And if anyone wants to contact me, check out my LinkedIn page. Quite happy to be contactable in the normal channel. So happy to have a chat anytime.
Well, I look forward to seeing photos of your tool shed, Rob. Are you proud of that, or can we see those tomorrow?
I will go take some photos, yes.
And the point is that we're using this time to make our world better for when we go back to what used to be normal. And our lives are going to have a lot of dimensions of improvement. And while there's a lot of horrible things going around, there are going to be a few areas where we can improve, and it goes beyond, Rob, your tool shed. It's the way we work from home, the less travel we do, and the more connected we feel with our community, even though we're at distance. And there's some of the things I'm looking forward to. But at a practical level, Rob, keeping the business going and working together at distance. So that's a challenge, and we've talked before about the TXM facility layout development process and how we now incorporate physical distancing when we design layouts. Sometimes there's tasks though that take two people to complete, and the activity might involve lifting or positioning a tool into position, or lifting ingredients onto a line or into a filler. And to get this task done, it's impossible to maintain the required distance from the two people required to do the task. And I just want to share one Ballarat company, what they're doing is to have a 5-minute rule. Now, this doesn't sound perfect to me, in the science, it's not perfect, but it is something. And they're saying if they're going to do a task together where they encroach on that the separation requirement, they're going to give it a time limit, and they've chosen 5 minutes. And so that forces them to plan the task, minimise the exposure to each other, and put some thought into how they do that task. Because if they didn't do that, it might take a lot longer. And so I thought I'd just share that with everybody today. I thought that was interesting. Just to finish up though, and we do need lean thinking for a COVID-19 world. And lean thinking is a way of eliminating waste and getting things done right first time with a focus on value for the customer. And if we're transitioning to a new job and we're changing our whole industry, so there's a lot of people that are used to work in one industry that now are going to work in a different industry. What thinking is required to be successful in your new industry? And the 3 tips that I want to share today is to really focus on performing your new task in a very highly standardized manner. So really break down the task into a lot of steps, and then understand why the steps are done that way. And to do that, understand what the steps are, how they're done, and why they're done that way. That way, as adults, we can challenge why they're done that way, but we can also determine a better way or fully understand why they're done that way and continue to do it that way. The second tip is to know who your customer is. So when you finish that task, who is it that benefits from you doing that, and what is it they value? And find out for each micro task, there's a customer, and know your customer. And then the third tip is there will be problems, and often in a new job, in a new career, we have a lot of ideas, but we need to have humbleness, and we need to solve problems in a humble manner. And a good question to do that is ask, how should this task be done? And if you simply ask that, then the people explain to you exactly how the task should be done. And then you can even ask the question, so what should have been done to prevent this problem? And that starts the 5 whys questioning from a very humble base where you're learning a new task, you're the new kid on the block, and those 3 tips are designed to help you succeed in a new career or in any career. So please contact us, email, use our LinkedIn. Our email is txmtv@txm.com. And it's been a fun day today, and I've enjoyed it, so thank you. Tomorrow, we're going to have more about the COVID-19 lean thinking that's required. We're going to have more on inventory management, and I look forward to you joining us tomorrow. Thank you for watching this live production. I'm Anthony Clyne, and thank you.
Okay, bye.